Several of you had asked me to do a video on how I attach the binding, and I'm going to share that with you. And you know that I'm no expert since I just started this for the first time yesterday, but it's working, so I'll show you what I've been doing. Now, this is the quilt I started working on when I was practicing yesterday. So what I'm going to do is, well, first of all, whenever I sew my binding on, I cut my strips 2.5 inches on the straight grain. They're not bias strips. I attach it to the front of the quilt, just like I would if I were hand finishing it. I do not press my binding. I'm not exactly sure what's in the range of the camera here, but I'll leave it just as it was whenever I attached it. And then I pin my binding. I want the fold line of the binding to just barely cover that stitching line where I attach the binding. And then I pin it, and I put the pins with the heads facing the wrong direction from how I would normally do it, but they're easier to grab when I'm sewing if they're facing this direction. If your sewing machine sews just fine over pins, then you can sew over them. If your sewing machine doesn't, then take them out as you get to them. Now when I get to a corner, I continue pinning in the direction I was heading, and then as I turn that corner, just leave the corner alone and go up just a couple of inches over, continue pinning, and pin a couple of inches. We'll come back and finish that corner. Make sure that your fold line on your binding is just barely covering that stitching line, and that way you won't end up with a big edge from where you have sewn. You know, like if your stitching line would be right here, you don't want to have a big flap right there, but you want it to be large enough that you can catch it. Get that pinned, and then go back after you've gotten a little bit of that done and fix the corner. Now I'm going to be sewing with my sewing machine lights off because I did another video and the lights kind of messed up the vision. So when you get to the corner, I like for my corners to perfectly meet right there. But when you're doing it by machine, you may have to let it overlap just a little bit so that you can actually catch that stitching. And pin that down. You got some bulk right there. Just get it pinned as best you can. And this is probably a pin that I won't run over even with my Bernina. If you need to add an extra pin right there, do it, because the main thing is that you get it right. Okay, I have the pins in. I need you the sharpest little pins. But then I come back and put I'm going to sew from the front, and I want to make sure that my stitching is going to be right in the ditch. So I will put my needle down and check it. You don't want to catch that that binding fabric if you can help it. I'm going to put so that my needle is down, so that whenever I stop stitching, my needle goes down, and that way I'm not tempted to move the fabric and end up stitching in the wrong place when I start again. When I start out, I back tack. I have lime green thread in the top and in the bottom. The closer you can match your thread, the better off you're going to be with your stitching not showing. This would probably also be a place where you could use a finer, like a bottom line or something polyester that matches perfectly, but it's strong enough to hold the binding. And it's kind of hard for me to sew without the light on, but I think you'll get a better view of it. And I'm staying right in the ditch. And since I had not pressed this binding, I'm going to finger press it out of the way as I get to it. And that way, once I let go of it, it kind of rolls back a little bit and covers that seam. But go as slow as you need to stay right in that ditch. And no matter how slow you go, it's still a heck of a lot quicker than doing this by hand. And just continue right up to your corner. I actually have my stitch length set a little bit longer than I normally would. Not long by any shot, but on my Bernina it's just a little bit past 2. When I get to the corner, I'm going to do a little back stitching to tack that down just right there. And then I'm going to stop with my needle down and turn my corner. At this point I can take out some of these pins. Turn my corner and be sure that I'm still right in the ditch. Start stitching again, back tack on that edge too. Now the dachshund that's whining. Now we'll take it out and see what we've done. My old Bernina does not have a thread cutter, but I love it anyway. back. I can't help you right now. And can you see, we caught the corner, I'd say pretty much perfectly right there. We caught everywhere we were supposed to catch, we caught it, and look, there's hardly any of a little lip right there, and I just don't see how that looks bad at all. I would probably go back and finish this corner by hand to tack it all down. But do you see that whenever the binding rolls back, you just don't even see that stitching at all? And you would not know from the front that this had been stitched by machine. And from the back, you'd hardly know. So that's what I'm doing today. And if you have any questions, you can leave a comment on the blog or you can email me and I'll be happy to answer. One other thing, some of the people are using glue, and what they're using is Elmer's washable glue, and they would put just a tiny little stream of glue right here, just probably right above that seam line, and then fold it over and then press it with a hot iron. I tried that on one section and it worked fine. It didn't work any better than the pins work. Glue attracts bugs, and so you're going to have to be prepared to wash your quilt as soon as you finish sewing. I would not store a quilt that had glue left in it. Not all of my quilts are washed immediately, and as long as I can work the pins without adding glue or anything else to the quilt that doesn't need to be there, then I'm just going to stick with the pins. But it's your quilt, and you are welcome to do it any way you want to. Just let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.